This is your Thursday Fantasy PSA. Remember to take all your Thursday night players out of your flex spot. Thank you and have a nice week. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. Now, let me be the first one to say sorry. Yeah, I think sorry is in order. It has been a long time coming since our last episode. We last did an episode in week 9. I think we did the week 10 waivers show as well. So apologies, it has been a while, 5+ weeks of you waiting for me to come back into your lives. But I said before I left, I had a little bit of a holiday planned, which meant I was going to miss a week. We then all started getting ill. If you guys are parents of toddlers or any kind of kid, you know this time is troublesome, to say the least. So we all started getting ill. Work started getting in the way because this unfortunately doesn't pay the bills quite as fully as I want to just yet, but we're on the way. So yeah, unfortunately we've been out for a few weeks. So sorry you didn't have one of your fancy gurus or maybe we'll just play off against, I guess, to listen to every week. But we're going to try and get back and consistent, and we are going to have a double header episode because this next week is also going to be quite busy for me. So we are going to take on week 14 and week 15 in one go. And before I start, I got the idea for doing this episode this way from a Yoda quote I heard. So something about trying. There is no try. I'm just going to have a quick look what it is. Do or do not. There is no try. And I think that is no truer a sentence than can be said when it comes to the weeks before your fantasy playoffs. Now, some of you listening may know that I've had a mixed relationship with getting into the playoffs this year. In some places, I'm already in, which is great. In some 10-team leagues where we're actually starting in week 16, not 17. I've got the first seed, which is great. I've struggled mightily when it comes to my home league. I'm on a 4-game winning streak after a 9-game losing streak, but regardless, that I'm well out on the home league, so no back-to-backs there. In Dynasty, I don't have it all in my own hands. So there's some people around me who are winning in, but I still have a fighting chance in there, so I'm hoping to get through that. It's a very, very competitive league this year. But regardless, I'm going to take some of my learnings and thoughts that I've had, because I have been thinking about fantasy football. I've still been an active commissioner in a couple of leagues. I've still been working my bum off to make sure the guys in those leagues get what they need out of their commissioner and out of the game itself. So I have been thinking about fantasy football and I have been playing. So, I don't want you to think that I've just gone off the reservation. Nope, not at all. Instead, I'm going to take some of those thoughts and judgments that I've had over the past few weeks and try and apply them to the weeks moving forwards. And we're going to start. We're just going to get into it now. As always, if you want to support the pod, you know where to go for that. See the links in the below. But we're going to get the content that you want. I've wasted enough time. I've wasted 3 minutes of your time already. Let's get into it. And let's get into week 14 starts and sits, or who's hot and who's not. And I had a couple of ideas for themes for this, and maybe this is like an Infinity War and Endgame scenario. Now, for some of you, week 14 will be the final week before the playoffs. If you've got a 3-week playoff, you've got a 6-man playoff roster with people getting buys as well. I think this is becoming more the style where people have more of a say when it comes to how they're constructing their leagues, but you want to have buys to simulate the real life NFL as well. Have those conferences as well. A lot more people playing divisions. So this might be your last weekend. And for me, this is my last week when it comes to a couple of my main leagues that I'm really concerned about, including Dynasty. I'm 7-7 in Dynasty. 7-7? 7-6. So I need to go 8-6 or something like that to make sure it all works there. So week 14 is really key for me. And I'm going to show you the players who I think are going to have success. And there are going to be some players who are on my naughty list, yeah, maybe this is a Christmas episode as well. We're just running themes about here, but this was, the idea behind this when I was writing this initially was, who are the Avengers who are going to take you to the promised land, and who's going to come back after the snap. Spoilers for Endgame there, who are going to help you over the line. But week 14, let's start with it. Enough rambling. I'm going to start off with all the hot ones, and then we'll go into negative ones. I'll explain why. And I'm going to start off with, you know what? I'm just going to go bold prediction straight off the bat here. I'm going to go with the Lions running backs. Full stop. Gibbs, Montgomery, I think they're both going to score well this week. Against a Chicago team which is rudderless, they have no reason to do well. They're going to get probably the number 1 pick again this next year, thanks to the Panthers. They have no reason to do well, and I think it's just they've given up a little bit, and there is nothing that I've seen out of their defense which leads me to think they're going to do anything of any worth. Jared Goff is playing efficiently again, which is great after he had a few down weeks, I guess, over the past few. He's playing efficiently once more, but not spectacularly. So I don't think the air game is going to be where it's at. I think they're going to pound the rock. They're going to get a lead, and they're going to do what they do. Yes, Detroit have one of the worst defenses in the league, and they always let people in. I think against Chicago, I just can't see it going any other way. So lock up Gibbs, lock up Montgomery. I think they're going to have a great time in Chicago this weekend. I think that's an early game on Sunday, so watch out for that one. Someone who has never made this list, though, is on my next, and I don't know why it came to me. We're going to stick in the North here, but with the AFC North, and it's going to be Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's been nothing, but he had a great connection with Joe Flacco, albeit for only a few weeks, when he was at the Jets last year. Joe Flacco looks like he's got the starting job again this week. I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to come back. I think they want to win and see if they can eke their way into the playoffs. I think it's more they're playing for Stefanski more than anyone else. But Elijah Moore seems to have done something. And with Amari Cooper going to concussion protocol, maybe Elijah Moore has got the play during this week's set of practices. So he is someone who I'm interested in having a look at. I'm not quite sure how he scored last week, but I based it on the play that I saw, which is not often I do that. So sometimes you just look at the box score, but I think sometimes it's good to look beyond the box score and work out who you think is going to have more opportunity. And Elijah Moore has had an opportunity to step up, and I think this week against Jacksonville, who looked porous against who are they playing? The Bengals last week. That was a great Monday night game. I loved that. I scored 58 points with Jake Browning and Joe Mixon on the last day to secure me a win in Dynasty, which to many people's disgust, because I predicted it kind of tongue in cheek. But yeah, in that game against a second string quarterback who I don't think has much legs beyond last week, and I'll go into that in a bit. Jacksonville were porous. I think they're going to see the same again. Elijah Moore, they're going to throw on them, and I think they're going to do well. And Elijah Moore is a bit unknown. He was a great route runner coming out of college. I think we're starting to see that come again. Another name who you've never seen on the positive side of this list, Taysom Hill. It's a NFC South matchup. I believe I'm just checking the lineups here. Have I got this completely wrong? No, it's not. Carolina versus New Orleans. In New Orleans, in the Dome. Taysom Hill is this some kind of folk hero? I don't know what it is about him, but he still gets play. And as a tight end, if he plays as a tight end, that's why you pick him up. You don't pick him up as a quarterback. He hasn't got 25 points in him, but he's got 15. He's got 18 potentially. He is goal line back. He is wildcat package. He is a quarterback. He's everything. He's a pass catcher. And I wouldn't be surprised if he runs, passes, and catches for one in one game. Carolina haven't had the new coach bump, or because Frank Reich has obviously gone. I can't remember who's coaching them at the moment, but they didn't really show much last week in a pretty poor display against Tampa Bay. Yeah, I think that was a rubbish game. I almost forgot that game. It was so rubbish. But Taysom Hill, I think, is going to have a field day, and because Carr is potentially shelved, Jameis Winston, he throws a lovely deep ball, but he throws contested ones, which was why I like Chris Olave for this as well. But I think Taysom Hill is my pick of the litter for New Orleans then in that game. So I'd start him up. Elsewhere, Puka Nacua. If you're putting the Avengers together, he is the Spider-Man of your Avengers. Really, he is young, untested, but my God, he's a difference maker. And Puka Nacua last week again showed with a 70-yard catch and run, he was so electric. Light him up again. He's so fantastic. I think he is the lead receiver now. Cooper Kupp is a great wide receiver / tight end, because that's what basically plays at. But it was crazy some of the plays they had, and yeah, he got knocked out for a few series thanks to a bit of a rib injury. I think he's played with that before. He is so good, so good, and I think Baltimore in that kind of middle distance throws where he gets it and he makes yards after carry. And in the contested catch game, I think that's where Baltimore are slightly weaker. And you can see Matthew Stafford, he rides on trust, and he trusts Puka Nacua explicitly. He has gotten the hearts and minds of everyone there. That's talking about both Puka and Matt Stafford as well, because he's getting people involved you never thought would be involved. Tutu Atwell is involved. Ben Skowronek's involved. As a Rams fan, I should know his name. I want to say Hopkins, but that's not right. But other receivers, number 15. I'm gonna have to go back and put that in the show notes. But the Rams game is purring, and you've got also Kyron Williams is running a great game. I think that opens up the game for Puka Nacua in the play action game. He's just going to be electric, and he's the guy you really want. And I'm so glad I've got him in so many different places. I think I'm going to ride him to a lovely couple of games coming up. Someone else who came out of nowhere last year, Brock Purdy, now being talked about in the MVP race. I think he's plus 300 in the MVP race, gone up from plus 1500 after that game last week against the Eagles. He is really good, and Seattle is porous. You would bet on San Fran, the 49ers, to absolutely dominate that NFC West matchup. I can't see it going any other way. I can see San Fran bottling up the run game, and then Brock Purdy's just got so many weapons to throw to. Debo's got involved again at last, being that perfect weapon. Christian McCaffrey continues to be a nuisance to anyone who plays against him on the fancy gridiron. Kittle's been involved, which is lovely. And yeah, it's great. So Brock Purdy, it's all signs up for him, and I really like him in week 14. And yeah, he stands you a great chance of getting you into the fancy playoffs if you're not already there. I think he is definitely a QB1 if he's sitting on your waiver wire. He needs to be picked up, guys. He needs to be picked up. There is no doubt about him anymore. Maybe there's doubt about his arm talent and all of that, but I think based on his situation, he is the perfect player for you. Elsewhere, I have seen a resurgence from Courtland Sutton, and I'm really upset because I was on the Courtland Sutton train way earlier, and he just didn't have a quarterback to throw it to him. Now Russ has become functional. I like it. The Chargers are in disarray. I think this is going to be Denver's game. I'll get onto that in a minute when I go into the not so hot area. But I think this is going to be Denver's game. I think they're going to go and surprise and come back after they had a 5-game winning streak, lost last weekend. Unfortunate fashion. I think it was definitely a grim game, to be fair. But Sutton really shone out, and I think Sutton has become the go-to receiver. And he's not a big enough name for people to mark him out of the game, to put double coverage on him. He is just good, and I think he's an end zone threat as well. So I'd love to see that carry through. CeeDee Lamb is my next. I think there is no doubts that he is now a true number one. I think there was doubts coming into the season whether he could do that, even with people around him, performing well. You've got Cooks performing well. Him and Dak have just been electric together, and you should continue to ride that. Not that you're not putting him in here, but I've got to put a couple of throw-in names here. And finally at QB, I'm going to put Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I would not have touched with a 10-foot barge pole a little while ago, but he's going up against a very soft defense in New York, who, again, pretty much have nothing to play for except pride these days. Tommy DeVito on the other side is an interesting pick, but I'm not going to be going anywhere near him. I couldn't see many kind of really plus matches for QBs who weren't already in consideration. Matt Stafford, I think, is pretty much already in consideration. I didn't like CJ Stroud. I'll talk about that in a minute. There are so many backup quarterbacks playing. Again, I'll get on to a minute. Didn't like Russ particularly. I think the people around Russ would be more interesting. But Jordan Love, I think, is going to be an interesting matchup this week going into New York. Right, we'll take a very quick break and we'll come back with our not hot players for week 14. And we are back, and we're standing up now because you do. We're standing up with a bit of a funky hairdo here, but let's get on into our week 14 knots. And there's going to be a couple of names that I'm gonna smash out there that I like, but I don't like for this week. The first one is going to be someone who won me a week last week, Jake Browning, 28 points on the week last week. My belief is that Indianapolis have a better defense than Jacksonville. Big say there. It's actually maybe it's a big ask, seeing as they didn't do great against Tennessee last week. They let in 25 points plus, but there is more tape on Jake Browning. Jake Browning was an unknown, effectively. I don't know where he was drafted, but he might have even been an undrafted free agent. But there is more tape on him, and you often see this sophomore second game slump from people coming in relief. I think that's what we're going to see from Jake. I think he's going to get his welcome to the NFL moment at the hands of Indianapolis. I still think the people around him will be good. I still like the idea of Joe Mixon having a bit of a renaissance with him. I still like the idea of Jamar Chase getting those deep balls, but I think there's going to be a lot of sacks, and I think there's going to be, because I think Indianapolis provide enough pressure on the D, and I think there's going to be a couple of interceptions that go awry here after what was a relatively flawless game from Jake last week. It's Jake, isn't it? If it's not, let me know. Another quarterback who I really, really do like, but I don't think is going to have a great time is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud showed that he was human last week. 17 points after like some 50 points, some 35-point games. It was great. He's lost Tank Dell, and I think he's going to feel. And I think that's where we saw him not do quite as well as he should have, because he relies so heavily on Tank Dell. Tank Dell going on IR after whiffing last week as well, on a blocking play. It's, I want to pay a little bit of respect to those guys who block. I'm a Rams fan, so I see a lot of wide receivers blocking. Cooper Kupp does great work. Puka Nacua does great work. Ben Skoranek, all of those guys do great work in the blocking game. And there was one play by Kyron Williams where there was all three of those guys were clearing players. That was great. And Tank Dell, being a little guy, did the same and hurt his ankle, and hurt his ankle badly enough that he's gone for the season. He's on IR. So I think CJ Stroud is going to have to adjust against what is still a good New York Jets defense. Obviously, Robert Saleh and the Jets are completely rudderless in the offensive game, but in the defensive game, they're still pretty good. So, I still say they're going to do a little bit of damage to CJ Stroud. But CJ Stroud, it could be interesting. It could get one of two games. If he holds on to it in the pocket, he's going to get so much pressure that he's going to have things in his face. He's going to make mistakes. The Jets managed to, tie people down to minimal points where they can. Whether they're going to be able to do that and have enough pressure, being the fact that their offense is going to keep them on the field quite a lot in terms of the defensive side of things, it's going to be interesting. But either way, I don't like CJ Stroud to be a 25 plus guy this week. I think he's going to be around the low to mid teens, and that's just not what you need to propel you into the playoffs. Another guy who I really like, and I've put him in the hot column before, K9, Kenneth Walker. I think there's a couple of reasons for this. I think Seattle are going to have to throw a lot, and I've already talked about San Francisco bottling up the run game and just having enough pressure on the quarterback to make them throw it. I think that's why I probably quite like DK for this one. Get those one-on-one matchups and get those deep balls that Geno can throw, but I think with K9, the middle of the pack there with those such great tackling linebackers in the San Francisco defense, Plus the fact that Charbonnet is a factor as well. I just don't like Kenneth Walker this week, and fortunately, yeah, I think he's made my not so hot list this week. Gabe Davis is next. You might say, of course, Gabe Davis is there, but he has a hot week and there's a cold week. He's just had a bye week. No one knows. So I'm going to go on the side that he is going to be rubbish. But legitimately, I think against Kansas City, I think we're going to see a lot of Diggs. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Gabe Davis. I think we might see some. Is it Khalil Shakir as well? Who I think has emerged to be the number 2. This could be a Gabe Davis game. It could not be. Either way, I'm not going to rest unless I really, really need to. I'm not going to put all my cards on Gabe Davis. A superstar wide receiver who I've added to this list. Denver's defense is pretty good, and I'm going to put Keenan Allen because he's the only guy. I could put Quentin Johnson on here, but God, he's got bricks for hands right now, and I'm really disappointed that I let my 107 rookie pick go to him. But Keenan Allen, I don't think is going to have a good time because it's just so one-dimensional the way they have to play with all the injuries and things they've got. So Keenan Allen, I'm sorry, I don't think this is going to be your game. I think you're going to be marked out of it. I think you're going to have another game similar to last week, sub 10 points. And finally, Freiermuth. Yeah, this is the early game. This is a Thursday game, so if you've got Freiermuth, don't have him. He is the weapon in Pittsburgh, it feels like, and with Trubisky under center, all those kind of things. Even though Freiermuth is great, I always say New England take out your best offensive weapon. Yes, they're rubbish elsewhere, and Pittsburgh will probably win this, but I don't think Freiermuth is going to be the guy to win it for them. I think they're going to rely on the run game against New England. So let's run back week 14 just on your hot side. Let's go with the starting guys. We'll go QB in that. So QB, I'm going to put Jordan Love. Running back, I'm going to put the Lions running backs. Wide receiver, Elijah Moore. Taysom Hill at tight end. Puka Nacua as your flex. And on your bench there, you've got Brock Purdy, Sutton, and CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb should be a lot higher, but we like to go with the riskier guys. And on the other side of the ball, you've got Jake Browning as your quarterback, who I just do not like this week. I'm sorry. K9, Gabe Davis, Freiermuth, Keenan Allen, the flex, and CJ Stroud kicking around on the bench there. We've gone more positive than negative in week 14. It's going to be tough. And obviously, just a minute, I didn't mention at the top, Arizona and Washington out. So you've got no Kyler, you've got no Sam Howell, but whether you'd want them this week anyway, another matter. Now, week 15. If week 14 wasn't your end game, this is your end game. This is where all the heroes come back after being dispersed on bye weeks, all this kind of stuff, and extending that metaphor, and they come to it. And this is where we're going to see people born anew and fighting for their lives. And in real life football terms, a lot of these guys will be fighting for their lives. There's 17 games, 18 game weeks. So for this is do or die for them. Do or die for your fantasy teams as well. And let's put people on the spot who it is going to be do or die for. And the first guy who I chastised in week 14, but you know what? I'm fickle. Let's go. Justin Herbert as my number 1 pick on the Thursday night, prime time against Vegas, in Vegas. Justin Herbert, I think, is going to have a game. Not only because Las Vegas defense is porous and I don't think could mark out Keenan Allen, but I think they're just going to have something. And this is going to be a fight for your life kind of game. Maybe Kellen Moore or Brandon Staley will have been gone by then. If that's the case, they get a reserve coach bump potentially. Maybe this is the one trying to turn it around, fight for their game. Either way, all signs point to Justin Herbert having a great game, and I'm really hoping he will. Week 15, and we're looking ahead. Things can change, so I reserve the right to change my mind on an Instagram post at a later date. At wide receiver, first guy I'm going to pick is going to be Jamar Chase. I still think Jake Browning will have a tough time. I'm just gonna have to double check whether Jake Browning is his actual name now. But Jamar Chase, I think, is going to have a pretty decent game against Minnesota, who still cannot get it together in the passing defense side of the ball. Anyway, yeah, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, to be perfectly honest. And I think Jamar Chase will, no doubt, just be a bit of a home wrecker when it comes to that game. Go for those long, deep balls, which Jake Browning has thrown. And I'm just now double checking whether it is actually Jake Browning. I've got to get the right team up here. If it's John, I'm so sorry. It is Jake. Thank goodness I have got it right. Yeah, I put him in my team for $6 bucks, and yeah, he's managed pretty nicely. But I think he might have a better game against Minnesota than he does against Indianapolis this week, and likewise, Chase. I think we'll see that fortune as well. Running backs was hard this week, but I picked out Jerome Ford as my guy here, going up against at home, sorry, against Chicago. I think it's going to be a case of running the ball. Maybe Joe Flacco is coming towards the end of his time, but either way, Chicago, I think at this point, are going to be giving up, and they're just going to be testing things out. That we've already talked about their defense being pretty porous. You want to play a running back against them, that might as well be Jerome Ford, and he has shown a bit of spark, and maybe will be included in the team, even if Chubb comes back fighting fit. Another quarterback who I think will have a redemption arc between 14 and 15. Maybe this is the he's a Thor of this. If you've watched Marvel films in the last few years, you might understand this. But I think he's going to go from Fat Thor to newly sorted Thor between week 14 and 15. This is a really tenuous link, but against Tennessee, I think he's going to find his feet, and I think that'll be. Yeah, he will find a new number one, whether it's Nico Collins, whether it's someone else, I don't know. But CJ Stroud, I think, will have a better time of it going away in a almost must-win divisional game against Tennessee than he will in the week 14. Devon A.K.A. has been an interesting story. Maybe it's Devon A.Chan. I don't know how we pronounce it. I think there is a split opinion on that. I've never heard the man speak, so I can't tell. But all I know is he's been fantastic for my dynasty lineup, and I was very happy to pick him up at the start of the second round. In fact, I picked him up after Kendre Miller was picked up. I was afraid I was going to be lumped with Kendre Miller, but no, I got Devon A.K.A. So very happy with that. John, you made the wrong choice there, I'm afraid. Anyway, Devon A.Chain. Sunday afternoon, I think he's playing. Where is he playing? There's quite a weird set of slate of games here, but it's an AFC East matchup at home against New York Jets. And as much as I said the Jets' defense were good, I don't think they're going to be good enough to match up against Miami. I think this could be a 50-plus point game. It really could be. And I think people are going to drop their heads, especially if you've got the spectre of Aaron Rodgers returning versus having to play a Zach Wilson, who apparently has been told he's going to get shipped off next year and then been asked to play. Why would he want to get himself injured? I am pro Zach Wilson on this one. You need to restart your career away from this terrible, terrible offensive line and this terrible, terrible organization who don't believe you. They're not a terrible organization, but they don't believe him anyway. But Devon A.Chain, I think, regardless, he's going to be electric. He is so good in the passing game, running game. It's going to be one of those games where they just absolutely pound New York, and they won't care if New York scores because they'll just score twice back. They're that good. I really, really do like the Miami offense here. Whether they'll make it in the real world, let's see. I think they're playoff bound regardless. Have a chance at the number one seed, I think. See how that plays out, because the AFC is a tough line here, and we'll have to see who makes it through. But I think Miami, if they pick up some form, could be a very interesting team to root for. Saquon Barkley doesn't make this team often because his team is so bad, but he has got something with Tommy DeVito, I think, and against New Orleans team, who I think, again, will be rudderless by this point. I think they might be cast adrift in the NFC South, which is a difficult thing to say because it's so tight out there. But New Orleans, I just don't trust their defense isn't as spectacular as we thought they would be under Dennis Allen. So Saquon is the one true weapon there, and I think he is going to have a nice time against the New Orleans offense, who don't really defend their run very well, and that's more of an optics thing for me, but I feel like Saquon is going to have a nice week 15 here. On the other side of the ball, though, and I don't often do this, I think Olave is going to have a great game against New York Giants for all the opposite reasons. I think this is going to be a shootout. So load up Chris Olave. He is a deep ball, contested guy. I don't trust the cornerbacks or safeties in New York, so that's why I love Chris Olave. And next pick, I'm going to go for a really, really bold pick. I've done position groups before. I've never done a whole team, but I'm going for the Rams' offensive weapons and the ones that matter. Come on, we're not talking everyone, but I think this is such a plus matchup for Los Angeles against Washington. I think it could be a shootout. The Rams' defense have been feisty, not perfect, feisty though, and I think it's just going to be a bit of a back and forth because it seems like the Washington offense have gotten interesting as well. Yes, they somehow throw so many picks, but they're in on him, and I like that. I like the fact that a fifth round pick is potentially going to be a franchise guy moving forward. But either way, the Rams' offensive weapons, yeah, the fact that Washington have definitely punted on this season, casting out Chase and Montez Sweat and more besides. They can't. They're so porous. I think they are possibly the worst or 31st worst defense in the entire league. So line up Higbee, line up Cup, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford, and maybe even as a little flex play, it could be Tutu Atwell's week as well. But you're wanting a piece of that. I don't think any of them are going to be fantastic, but I think all of them will be very serviceable because I think there's only so much to go around. But if I was to pick any one of them, again, it would be my boy Puka. But I felt a bit bad just putting him in 2 weeks in a row. I thought I'd get braver. Sticking in the NFC West, I'm going to take a look at the Monday night game, and I'm going to pick DK Metcalf against Philadelphia, and mainly because Philadelphia, despite signing Shaq Leonard, who is not going to be the off-ball linebacker kind of guy, they cannot stop the pass. James Bradbury, Darius Slay are just letting up too much, and I think DK is just going to make mincemeat out of them. The fact that you've got Lockett and JSN running around, making it being a nuisance, means DK is the guy who just goes. Geno Smith can throw a lovely rainbow ball straight into his arms, and I think DK is going to have a great game against Philadelphia. I think it will be a bit of a ping pong back and forth. And another game that I think will be interesting as well is Jacksonville Jaguars against Baltimore Ravens. It's in Jacksonville. I think Baltimore are going to build up a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence because I think he's shown signs of fragility. But Engram, I think, is going to be the guy who is going to be that dump off. I think in the past, against a team that maybe applies less pressure, it might have been Travis Etienne's week, but I think Engram has shown that he is a secure pair of hands. I think he's got 25 points in week 13, which was a bit scary for me because I was going up against him in a couple of places. But yeah, I like Engram. So week 15 hot. Here are your new Avengers, the recast Avengers. Bigger cast this time because you're getting people from the multiverse as well. I've got to stop this metaphor. Herbert, Chase, Jerome Ford, CJ Stroud, A.K.A, Saquon, Olave, the Rams, full stop, DK, and Engram. And on the not side of the ball, here is your remnants of Thanos' army. Again, keep saying stop this, but I need, either way. I'm going to start off with Mattison. I think normally I would say running against the Bengals is what you want to focus on, but I just don't see it coming from Mattison. And I think they might be trying something out different. I think by this point, maybe the Vikings might just be out of playoff contention because you've got two teams in the ascendancy in not the Bears, the Lions and the Packers in the NFC North. I think they might be cut adrift. I think the Pastronaut as well may run his course. Josh Dobbs being a great story for the season. I think it might run out, but I don't trust Mattison at all. I never have, never will, and I don't trust him in week 15 to take you to the fantasy playoffs. So he's going to be someone I ship off. Gardner Minshew, although I've relied on him too heavily in some areas, this year as a year of backups. I think this might be where So yes, you're a capable backup, but can you carry a team running forward? Probably not. Pittsburgh are mighty good on defense. Yes, they've struggled up against really top quality quarterback play. I don't think that's what Minshew gives you. I think Minshew gives you a safe floor, not a high ceiling, and that's where Pittsburgh have had their lunch. And I think he's going to get sacked all over the place. I think he's going to get scared, and I think he will probably make this competitive, but not from a fantasy perspective. Justin Fields, again, I don't like it in week 15. I don't think they have anything to play for at this point. And Cleveland are playing defense first, and they are getting so much pressure. Justin Fields holds onto the ball so long. I think this is going to be an opportunity for Myles Garrett to go after sack records, and I think Fields is going to let him do it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of fumbles, probably an interception going on there as well. You know what, we've got to throw a superstar into our not list as well, and I'm going to head to Kansas City, and it's going to be Travis Kelce. again, it's an age-old trope, but if you're going into New England, you're going to have your best weapon taken away from you. Kelsey is your best weapon. He's going to get taken away from you. I still think they'll win. I don't think it'll be through Kelsey, and I don't think he'll score 20 points as everyone is probably predicting him to score against a very weak very weak defense in New England. They're going to make his life difficult. And I think it all depends on whether Taylor Swift is going to be there in Foxborough or not. More quarterbacks. Kyler Murray has made my list this week. Again, I just, the 49ers just have the Arizona Cardinals number. Sorry, Kyler, this is not the game you want to be playing. I think next year with a retooled lineup, maybe Arizona can be competitive. I think they'll be feisty. But I don't think this is going to be Kyler's week. And I think he's going to see a huge amount of pressure in his face. And being a short king, he is going to struggle in that regard. I have put DeAndre Swift on the mound here as well, mainly because I think that Monday night game is going to be a ding-dong battle between the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles. But Swift, I feel like he's been phased out of the game a little bit, and the run game just goes through Jalen Hurts, which I don't think is conducive to great play. We're seeing a lot more Kenny Gainwell as well in the passing game, so yeah, I'm not favouring DeAndre Swift here. And finally, Gabe Davis, because I thought I'd spread the love a little bit and make sure I poop on Gabe Davis twice in 2 weeks, because he's going to have a good week. One of them, we think that he's so boom bust. So at least I'm 50-50, right? So I'm netting out over these 2 weeks. So just to summarize, week 15, your hot players are Herbert, Chase, Jerome Ford, CJ Stroud, Achane, Saquon, Olave, the Rams' offensive weapons in general, DK Metcalf, and Evan Ingram. And your not players for week 15, the ones you guys want to avoid like the plague: Mattison, Minshew, Justin Fields, Travis Kelce, Kyler Murray, Gabe Davis, and DeAndre Swift. So yeah, that's week 14 and 15 in a nutshell. I think I'm going to cut it there because I don't want to alienate people who only want to listen to 40-minute episodes and what have you. I might do something else on Saturday or Sunday around another interesting topic. I want to talk about leagues at some point. I want to get back into a bit more of a rhythm as work gets a bit calmer over the coming weeks as well. But yeah, I don't think it's going to get calmer over the next 2 weeks. I think maybe a bit longer, but maybe you'll hear from me over Christmas as well. But I will be back definitely next week to look at what we did wrong and where we want to pivot at last for waivers as well. So listen out. As always, if you want to support the pod, find me on social medias at Rugby with Pads. Get in touch. We're everywhere you can do. You can listen to this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Give us a like, subscribe. No, all of this kind of stuff helps. And I appreciate the fact that I have not been consistent on this matter, but I hope you forgive me. I hope you'll continue to listen moving forward. Thank you so much if you listen this far. Again, more support as well. If you want to go to rugbywithpads.com, you can get a membership there. I will be more active, and the more people subscribe to those memberships, the more I can afford to be active as well. So if you want to support there, you get merch with your subscriptions as well, so do that. And if you go to store.rugbywithpads.com, it takes you to our Etsy. You can get some nice merch there. I've extended all the merch that was one time only for a little bit longer as well, so get it before it's gone. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week, and as always, I will see you on the virtual.